Hi, this is Stephanie, Diana, and Mari Cruz. We are Group 9, and we will be talking about the short story The Garden of Forking Paths by J.L. Borges.
So, a short autobiography of the author, Jorge Luis Borges. He was born on August 24, 1899 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, to Leonor Acevedo Suarez and Jorge Guillermo Borges Haslam, who both had literary ambitions. His father was half English and was an unsuccessful lawyer who became a philosophical writer. His mother translated works by famous authors such as William Faulkner, Franz Kafka, and D.H. Lawrence into Spanish. Borges had an international appeal as a result of his cultivation of literary allusions from cultures. He bears distinctive features of the universes based off of fantasy and science fiction. He also associated himself with a young group of poets called the Ultraists. The Garden of Forking Paths was written in 1941. It was Borges' first major collection and introduced him to a wider public as an idealist writer. Borges liked the creation of fictional identities and alternate reality. He enjoyed detective stories because of the subtle and elusive explanation. He was influenced by the works of fantasists such as Edgar Allan Poe and Franz Kafka. His works represented various ideas of narrative techniques. Borges uses his ideas as a technique as fantastic elaborations that entertain and perplex readers, much like a challenging game or puzzle. His stories are often perplexed as a point for readers to interpret the story in their own way. So, a brief summary of the story is the protagonist, Dr. Yu-Tun, is a spy for the German Empire. He is discovered by a British spy, and his cover is blown, and is now being chased by Captain Richard Madden. He warns the leader of Germany of where the Allied forces plans to strike. When he was planning to escape, he finds the name Albert and heads towards the train station. Yu-Tun arrives at Ashgrove and was led to Albert's house by a group of boys. He meets Steve and Albert and uncovers his knowledge of his ancestor, Chui Pen. They discuss the Garden of Forking Paths created by Chui Pen and its importance. Yu-Tun sees Captain Madden again and shoots and kills Albert when his back was turned. He shot Albert because he was determined that the city of Albert needed to be bombed. Then, Madden barged in and arrests Yu-Tun. Time is a theme and motive that is presented in the Garden of Forking Paths. The title can be defined in the text on page 2087, in which it states, "It is an enormous riddle or parable whose theme is time. This recondite causes prohibits its mention. He believed in an infinite series of times, in growing, dizzying, and divergent, convergent, parallel times. It embraces all possibilities of time." The notes section of the author helps the reader determine that time was an important factor for Borges' writing. He felt that time had many possibilities and was not limited to one certain way, which is a reflection of the character Chui Pen's idea of time, which happens to be Yu-Tun's ancestor. As a reader, we can interpret that Chui Pen is simply an image that can carry his idea of time within the text without carrying much attention away from the living characters of the time within the text. With this introduction of time, it allows for Borges to carry the idea that time is endless, with many possibilities, yet all we have are faith set because of the many possibilities that life has to it. Another theme and motives from the text is intersectionality. The text is written as if it was in first-person point of view, given to another person, as a way to describe what happened to them, simply like a interview. One starts with this impression immediately from the beginning of this text, with the statement on page 2080. He wrote many of his stories in the style of encyclopedic entries and historical essays, in which it is true. He used a lot of historical background that it was true, such as the name city of Albert, and then World War I was a major benefactor in this whole story. Even though it isn't realistic encyclopedia, his style of writing of the text makes it come to reality with his immersion of the historical essay that demonstrates a supposedly true event of an attack during World War I. It is also stated on page 2080, a famous Chinese novel that serves as Chui Pen's proposed model, The History of World War 1914 to 1918, published by B.J. Little Hart in 1934, which was written 7 years prior to The Garden of Forking Paths, which is another text not added in the text itself, but it has ideas carried from it. Another theme and motive will be fate itself. There's some quotes on page 2081. "I would encounter the same fate. Then I reflected that everything happens to a man precisely now." Then on page 2087, there's a few other quotes. It says, "In the present one, which a favorable fate has granted me, you have a right on my house. Another while crossing the garden, you found me dead. And still another, I utter these same words, but I am mistaken as a ghost. The future already exists." We can see that fate isn't seen throughout the whole text as seen as something that's already set with time. It doesn't matter your courses, it will end up around the same thing. And the third quote that was provided, it says that the faith of one is already this or that. And then throughout the text, Yu-Tun is showing that faith has to follow him, and he lets it be. He tries not to fight what it should be, because it is a destiny set for him already, in which he just needs to allow it to happen. Another theme in Motives is betrayal. Yu-Sun is having an internal problem with himself due to feeling the betrayal to his own heritage because of his actions that were made strictly due to his ties with Germany. He has attempted to work for Germany since the beginning to just prove that Chinese are intelligent and capable of working as a spy, which means there were the need to complete any task to prove his point, even if it takes away everything from him, except his knowledge that he had completed a horrific task. He is not 100% in full terms of Germany because of his stance that they did not acknowledge his race. He has moments that he wants to give up and not give in to Germany's demands, but he knows that without cares, then he proves to them that Chinese men are incapable of being spies. When Yu-Sun murdered Stephen Albert, it creates a sense of betrayal. Albert was truly amazed by Sun's heritage, and right before he shoots him, Yu-Sun states on page 2087, "But I am your friend. Could I see the letter again?" Albert rose. Standing tall, he opened the drawer with a tall desk. For the moment, his back was to me. I had already died. Ready the revolver, I fired with extreme caution. Albert fell uncomplainingly. Immediately, I saw his death was instantaneous, a lightning stroke. One of the worst things a person can do is shoot someone while they are turned away. Albert was full of admiration of Sun, yet he was betrayed by Sun for simply having an in-car spine to say that needs to be bombed. Albert did no harm ever to Sun, yet he was shot plain black in the back. Not only that, but right before he murders him, he says he is his friend. What's the worst thing a friend could do to another friend is betrayal, betraying them by killing them. The main character is Yu-Sun. Yu-Sun was a former professor of English at the Hochschule at Tencent. It states that it is an actual location in China. And then on the following page in 2082, he states, "I am a cowardly man. I didn't do it for Germany. No, I care nothing for a barbarous country which imposed upon me the objection of being a spy. I did it because I sensed that chiefs somehow fear people of my race. For my numerous ancestors who merged within me, I wanted to prove to him that a yellow man could save his armies." He was a spy for German forces, but his decision to join was simply to prove a point that people of his race were capable of completing any task, in which it leads Yu-Sun to complete a task of murdering Albert to get a message through to German forces. And like it says, to save his armies, which is really important when you're fighting a world war. He does make a statement in which he states that he is a coward, and it shows in the style in which he murders Albert. He shoots him at point blank when his turn is back to him, when his back is turned on him. And he also makes the decision to tell him that he is his friend, to give Albert a sense of confidence in Yu-Sun, especially since he was so admired by his fellow ancestor. But Yu-Sun is more of a complex character in which he's fighting an internal struggle to prove that he is able to do this, even if he knows it's probably the wrong thing to do. He does it to prove the bigger point that his race is capable of completing tasks and being a spy. He's trying to fight this internal struggle, but at times, he does fall, and it takes him so much to get up and move on, but then again, he believes it is his fate to complete a task, and he wants to complete it. The idea of a labyrinth is something that the protagonist could get lost in for hours. There are infinite forking paths, which signifies infinite endings, which will lead to alternate endings. We reinterpret the story of diverging paths and parallel universes. The labyrinth is a metaphor of the ideal detective story. Borges admires and uses and reflects the labyrinth as a physical puzzle, since he is a spy. He feels ghosts of himself in an alternate universe in the maze. Thus fought the heroes, tranquil their admirable hearts, violent their swords, resigned to kill and to die. He shoots Albert because in the short time he has when Madden appeared, the protagonist decided to take a different path for a different outcome of the narrative.